Welcome back to Hot Topics, the Contemporary Black Voices at Black Video Network. And before we get started with our hot topic, we're going to do our mailbox. We do have a sentence to read from someone who sent us really a comment about books and libraries. And that's really interesting because last week, as you know, we had the librarian D.L. Grant as our guest. But before we go there, want to also reach out and give credit to our producer, leader, and dictator, Carl Booker.
He don't have an applause thing, so I'll say, yay!
I remember going through basic training. That's boot camp. When you first get into the military, and they have to be hard. I mean, they're hard on you. I mean, those sergeants, those drill sergeants are hard on you. And so, I think that Carl kind of fits that category sometimes.
Sergeant Booker.
Sergeant Booker, he comes down hard on us. We're like the trainees.
Right.
Okay, well, that's it. Let me read a comment we got from Robin Garnett-BB9CT. Robert wrote, I went to libraries and bookstores. I understand the issue with information given by non-blacks to black folks is an issue. We don't think that's an issue, but it is. It's a big issue if we look at who prints the books, who edits them, who publishes them, who distributes them to libraries, to bookstores, and later, after they have been out of print, to public libraries. And that fits right into what our topic is going to be, which is the state of Texas took over control of the Houston School District. And recently, in their continued attempt to sabotage our kids' learning, they closed 28 libraries in the Houston area. And if that's not sabotage, I don't know what is.
What a lot of people need to understand is that the library has always been the crown jewel of schools, okay? That's where a student can go and select a book of their choice, not what's in the classroom. They can go pick out select a book of their choice. And for a lot of kids, these crown jewels are the only libraries within their immediate community.
Right.
Yes, there may be a library within, I'm going to say, the district of the community, but for a lot of those kids, they can't get access to those libraries. So having access to a school library is critical to their learning process. So I have issues with what what's happening right now in Houston with those 28 libraries, 28 possibly plus libraries being removed under the traditional sense. So you have, in these schools, these libraries are in low performing schools, which is just another way of saying black schools, barrio schools, that's what they're really saying. So the schools have been low performing. What I want to know is, has there been any improvement in those state test scores? Okay, that's what they're building their argument on. So you close down the library under the traditional model, and now you're saying that you're going to move the kids who are discipline problems, behavioral problems, into the library, as they're calling it a team center, but the other thing that they're calling it also is a discipline center, to where now the library becomes really a pipeline to prison.
Yep.
Image, if you think about it. The kids can't just go up and go check out a book. They have to gain merits to get a book. And so they've got kids who go there, who are sent there because they're discipline problems. They can work together in a small team, or they can put a child to connect back to their regular classroom under a remote learning model. And so I have problems with all of this. And I know I'm going to go on and on, but yes, there are discipline problems in all schools, in white schools as well. Those kids may be hooked up on opioids or whatever, but they're always focusing in on the inner city schools, the barrio schools.
Let Let me make 2 quick points. One is to say that I want to, you mentioned something at the very beginning, that the access to the library, the school library, may be the only access that a child may have to like a library system, because they may not get to their neighborhood library or something like that. So they're introduced to the school library, which then can catapult them into other libraries. I think that's first of all important. The second point that I want to make is that it's not the schools that have failed, it's the teachers, not the teachers, but the curriculum that has caused these students to fail. If they were, I don't believe that you can have these students that have the ability to learn like any other student, because eventually what they're going to try to say is that the brains of these lower performing schools children don't have the same brains as the higher performing schools, and that's pure nonsense. So what I'm saying is that the curriculum has failed these students, and it's not really the school that's failed, it's the curriculum that's failed.
Well, how do you separate it? The curriculum is part of the school.
Well,
Go ahead.
well, the curriculum, if you think about what we said in an earlier show, that many of the school systems have one curriculum that's taught to all the kids throughout the school district, okay? Not every, and we keep saying we all learn differently. We all learn differently. We talk about multiple intelligence. We all learn differently. So if we all learn differently, then why are we insisting that the same curriculum is taught throughout the district? There have been too many studies, because I was involved in a study where they were completely, people were fired and rehired to adopt a new curriculum specific for that school. And we were able as teachers to use our creativity to help these kids move up on their state scores to become more successful. I'm saying, and I've never taught in Houston ISD, so let me get that straight right now. But I bet you that the same curriculum is being taught, and to make the library now look more as a disciplinary place than as a place of learning, to me is a shame, shame, shame.
Ridiculous.
You know, something interesting to me, it's a little off the subject, but it ties in. We assumed that these white folks weren't the same white folks during slavery, that they had grown, you know.
We thought so.
We thought so. We thought that they realized that to do that was wrong.
But they failed the American curriculum.
Man, I'm starting to think these are the same white folks
It is.
that were around in 1850.
It is.
And that's frightening.
Reincarnated. It is.
Yeah, the same people, man. That's frightening.
Well, you see this effort to remove Black history from the classroom. You've got a school that's predominantly Black. You're going to have some discipline problems. You will have some discipline problems unless you've got a teacher who just doesn't care and closes the door. I'm going to teach these kids what they need to know to survive. You know?
Yeah, but this is let's go back to the not using diversity and
Inclusion.
Equity and inclusion.
taking that out, and a state taking over a school board, Man, that's frightening.
I was talking to Sharon's.
Let me just add one other thing. I don't think I'd be surprised if there's any. Maybe there's one Black on the Texas Education Association.
I don't think there are any.
They're in. Man, you know how frightening that is? These suckers are controlling what our kids can learn. And you talk about the disciplinary problem, you can understand why. Because I think these kids are more hip than what I was at a young, they're not taking this stuff. See, it was a long time ago, so we accepted it. But these guys, no, we don't want that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson crap. Keep that to yourselves.
See, this is what I'm thinking. Yeah, you guys going to say, wow, she knows about that movie? They're trying to clone Tyrone. They're literally trying to clone Tyrone in these libraries, to where you bring all the kids who are considered discipline problems. There's no telling what they may be hearing in those libraries to calm them down. So if they're cloning Tyrone, then you need to see the movie on Netflix if you haven't seen it. those of you who are listening, you might have already seen it. You know what I'm talking about. But if they're trying to reprogram these kids to accept an ideology to where they're just like zombies. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. No, ma'am. That scares me right there.
Yeah.
The one thing that they need to be working on, discipline, is that one student in every geographic area that's going, and they're white, that is shooting up the schools. Okay. I ain't seen one black person yet shooting up no schools. Okay. They might have little minor disciplinary issues that they consider disciplinary issues, but they ain't killing up everybody. That's what they need to be working on. And America's not willing to do that.
Is this a South problem? Are they having the same problems up north? Because you notice Florida, Texas,
No.
southern states, and look at what they're doing, man.
Well,
Look
they're
what doing.
trying
Now that you
to
mention
make America great again.
In the
And-
South?
And we need to understand what that means, what that really means. But again, Houston ISD, you teachers, my heart goes out to you, you librarians. I don't think these librarians are not saying anything about this either. They're stepping out of their comfort zones and saying what they need to say. Because again, when you send a child to a library and they come back with this book, I saw first graders walking down the hall with Harry Potter books, this thick.
Oh,
but
wow.
they were hugging that book. But that was their choice. They might have learned a few words in the book, but that was their choice. When we go to Barnes and Noble, pick out a book off the shelf or the half-price bookstore, that is a book of our choice. And we probably learn more from books of our choice.
Well, do you think black kids should have a comparable Harry Potter book?
Well, they do. It's just not allowed in the schools. I mean, if you think about it, there's probably a Black Panther. There's Black Panther comic books. They're not in schools.
Right.
So we do have comparable books, but they're not in schools.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got some, but not like Harry Potter.
I go back to what I was saying earlier, man. This is a much larger problem
I agree with
that
you.
we're confronting.
I agree with
And,
you.
man, they're out after us.
And again,
Yeah, after
parents,
us.
black parents, I encourage you. I'm just going to go ahead and say, go raise hell at that board meeting. Go on over there, and not just to take a whole church bus load of you guys to those board meetings and start raising the utmost amount of hell, because this is wrong, and there are more implications behind it, aside from just sending these kids to these libraries as disciplinary centers. So if a child goes there 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, what next? Would they be sent to the junior probation center? So I don't like how this looks.
And don't do it. Don't get involved in the school only when there's a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
We show up when there's a crisis. I remember at Sam Houston High School, when they think about closing it down, man, that place was full of parents. But they're in a crisis.
I would say the Houston ISD is probably the largest school system in the South.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah,
and,
probably.
and Houston itself as a city proper probably has more blacks than any other city in the South. And I would think that Houston needs to set an example for what's going on and what you will allow and what you won't allow.
In what way? In what way? In terms of what
Just
they're
like
doing?
just like Sharon said, they need to show up at the school board meeting. They need to say they're not going to stand for this. We eventually need to talk about what you talked about earlier, is that we do need our own schools. But until we can get to that point, you are going to say our tax dollars aren't going to support this type of initiative. You need to go back. If we can't be on the board, then you need to go back and find something different and come back to us with something different.
Well, some school districts such as, I'm going to say it, Northside ISD, they're sitting on an all call for retired teachers to come back. Now, I've thought about maybe just to see if they'll pick me back up, but they probably say, she raises too much sin. She's missed critical race theory. So, but these school districts, if they bring back retired teachers who have nothing to lose, I think we'll see more changes.
But how can the teachers make the change, Sharon? I'm not following you.
Well,
When
if you
everything is dictated from the state,
because
like in Houston,
because
it's dictated by the
if
state.
you're a retired teacher and you're already pulling full Social Security, and they come into my classroom, and I'm already pulling full Social Security, you know, in this case, I have nothing to lose in terms of what you're going to do, fire me?
Yeah, that's what they're going to do.
You know,
That's exactly what they're going to
and
do.
you already have a shortage?
They're still going to fire you.
Well, then,
They're still going to fire you.
don't waste my time
You,
hiring.
you know, when
interviewing
it
me.
comes to us, white people are irrational. They're the most irrational people out there when it comes to us. And sometimes I always wondered, what the heck do we ever do to those people to make them hate us the way they do? That they would do what they're doing in Houston and in other places. I mean, what the hell did we ever do to these people?
And the other issue, I know we're about to run out of time here. The other issue is in that library that they're going to be stacking little black boys in, okay? Not all those kids are discipline problems.
No.
A lot of those kids are gifted. A lot of those boys are gifted and should be in gifted and talented programs.
You make a good point. They take young kids who are just, you know, full of energy, put them in that environment, and they make them into criminals. And that's what's going to happen in Houston. And I'm wondering, where is the Congressional Black Caucus up there in the state legislature? What are they doing? Are they trying to make this change?
No, they've gone home. The session's over, so they're all dispersed.
Right.
So,
yeah.
so all I just know is this, and we're about to shut it down here. I cannot wait to hear from the following people: Philip, Willie D. I want to hear what your commentaries are going to be on this subject because this pertains to your city.
Okay. Closing comment.
I just want to say that discipline. Learn to be disciplined, everyone, and don't allow your life to be a life of regret because you didn't have discipline in the beginning of your life.
Okay. Doctor, closing comment?
I don't have any closing comments.
Okay. Okay. So my closing comment is something's happening out here, man. Something really serious and dangerous is happening out here with what these white people are doing to us. And we all, man, better wake up. How's the song go? Wake up, everybody. It's time.
No more sleeping in bed.
No more sleeping in bed. Yeah. And we have to do something. It is, I don't know if people realize the magnitude of a state taking over a school board and then removing the libraries, man. That's terrible. Everyone out there should be texting or calling their member, especially the black member in the Texas State Legislature and in the Texas Senate, and ask them, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about this? Are you holding hearings? What are you doing? Do something. And that's my final word for today. And so this is Contemporary Black Voices, as usual, saying we're going to tell our story our way always.